Cause you had a bad day, you're taking one down. You sing a sad song just to turn it around. You say you don't know, you tell me don't lie. You work on a smile and you go for a ride. You had a bad day.
Greetings everyone, Brad here with Mild Mannered DDC. Today we're going to do a review on a knife that I am really conflicted on. And that is this. This is the Monterey Bay Knives VLD, or very low drag. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about with this knife, and I could ramble on and on. I think those of you who subscribe and watch my videos regularly know that I'm capable of rambling for great periods of time.
It's true.
However, I'm going to try to get to the point on this one, or the points on this one, as best I can, as succinctly as I can, and then you can go on with your day, or evening, or whatever it may be. So we're going to do a classic mild-mannered review of this knife, and then we'll just go ahead and get underway. So let's first talk specs. So we've got here a 3.5-inch blade. There you go. You've got a blade thickness here of 0.14. You've got a handle length when it's all closed up of 4.25. You get an overall when it's all opened up of tip to tail here 8 inches, and then a weight of 4.4 ounces. So not the lightest knife out there, but it's not terrible actually. It's not too bad. So there you go. Those are the specs. Now, I'll throw up some size comparisons, as I think I mentioned in another video, because of my angle of that I record at. Some folks were complaining that my size comparisons were a little off, which I think is probably true. So anyways, I'll put up a couple pics here of some various knives, various other knives that I think I said knives that, just so you can get some size comparison. So with that, let's go ahead and get underway with our classic mild-mannered review. And when we do a classic review, we talk blade, we talk action, we talk scales and hardware, and then ergos and carry. So blade on this knife. This is a beautiful blade. It is M390, according to the Monterey Bay Knives website. There is no marker on the actual blade, so, taking their word for it here. You can see the Monterey Bay Knives logo there in the light, and then you can see the designer's mark there, which is Peter Carey. And, like I said, this knife I'm conflicted on for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is not the blade. I actually like this blade a lot. And in fact, the reason I bought this knife primarily was because of the look. When I saw this on their website, I just thought it looked really, really good. It was really an attractive knife in sort of my, kind of in my eyes. And this blade is a big part of that. You've got a really nice swedge up here. You've got this, very much upswept. I actually don't know is this a drop point? I guess it's a drop point, right? Or a spear point maybe. It's got a satin finish. It says it's got a hollow grind on the website. This does not feel hollow to me. Maybe it is. It very well could be. It feels more flat, looks more flat. That was another little point of disappointment. I had hoped that it would actually have a hollow grind as per the website. And in fact, it very well may be. If it is, it's very, very slight. But all that said, it's still extremely sharp. In fact, this is one of the sharpest knives I've got in, sort of out of the box that I've had in a while. So very, very sharp. So overall, a nice sterile blade. It's very clean, well chamfered. And we'll talk about where that's not the case on this knife, but on the, edges of the spine of the blade and whatnot, very much so. Nice jimping, it's rounded off, etc. So again, satin finish, M390, it's a lot to like there. This is definitely a sharpening choil, not a finger choil by any stretch. And the grind work is very, very good. So like I said, very sharp, very good blade. Now, let's talk action. This was the part of the knife that surprised me the most, actually. Listen to this. Yeah, I mean, that is just and then Very, very. So this has a very crisp, very clean, very authoritative, very distinctive opening sound. Its action is very, very distinctive. Now, you also may have heard another sound there. Yeah, that would be some significant lock stick. Yeah, and I think there are a few reasons for that. One is, I believe the lock bar actually has a little bit of burring on it, so that's a problem. There is no steel insert or anything there to do that. Now you get a lock up here of about 40 to 50%, which is fine. And, you know, as far as being centered, yeah, not fantastic. Now I have been using this a lot, but I'm not sure it should be quite like that. So anyways, it came centered but has gone off center over time. So there you go. Now these pivots, the pivot also, well, we'll talk about that. So there you go. Not centered at the moment, but was when I got it, I guess. But yeah, the action, it's got a great action. I mean, it's a fantastic action, very smooth. I love the sound, basically. I mean, the sound is sort of what sold me on why, between that, the look of the blade and the sound, yeah, those are by far my two favorite things about this knife, period. Now, we've talked action. Let's talk about scales and hardware, and let's talk about ergos and carry, because that's where the bulk of my complaints are with this particular knife.
And here we go.
So, scales and hardware. We have a green sort of linen micarta, OD green linen micarta. The micarta's nice. Nothing really to complain about there. It's decent. There's a little bit of fraying on the edges, but it's not overly terrible. By and large, feels nice. Now, you'll also notice you've got a micarta backspacer, which all that work seems to be done pretty darn well. Most things are lined up. There's a little bit of I don't know, it's not quite flush, or I don't know what the situation is right there. It's a little bit strange, but yeah. Then you've got titanium liners and a titanium pocket clip. You've obviously got hardware with that very distinctive Peter Carey designed screw choices there, and flat or pivot screws, and then flat pan heads here. You do have a lanyard hole as well. Now, one of the things that's really, really unfortunate is these liners are about as sharp as the actual blade.
Yeah, that's not funny.
I mean, I am not kidding. These liners are, I mean, they look completely unfinished, personally. I mean, that's just sort of my, I mean, and I, look at this. I mean, you can, look, it can take, that's always a test I like to do, is sort of can it scrape your nail? Yeah. I mean, they're totally sharp, uncomfortable. Here, they're uncomfortable here. They're uncomfortable on the friggin' lock bar, which is where, you know, for the liner lock, which is where you've actually got to put your thumb. And I even actually found myself getting pinched a little bit in between here, the lock bar, and the micarta. Yeah, these scales are just, or I'm sorry, the liners are just a fail, flat out. Really unfortunate. And, you know, you're going to have to basically take this apart and chamfer everything yourself to make this comfortable. I mean, it really does feel like you could cut yourself. I mean, I'm not kidding. It's just, yeah, it's bad. Just bad. So that's where we sit with scales and hardware. Let's talk ergos and carry. So the ergos on this knife are actually quite good from the standpoint of it fills your palm. It's a pretty thick little knife. I didn't think I gave you a I think it's a little over a half an inch. I think it's like 0.6 or something like that. Definitely a fat, you know, pretty thick little knife. But the ergos are good, and I actually do like the ergos. They fit well in your hand. The knife feels good. It's, you know, the balance is pretty decent, etc. One of the issues, though, as we're talking ergos, and I consider this, well, this may be a carry issue too. You can touch the blade. There it is. It's not horrible, but I can definitely feel it. Now, I haven't been able to cut myself yet, but it's definitely there. And as a person who has cut himself on his pinky right here by sliding into a knife that had a similarly exposed blade, I'm a little wary of that. So, You know, all they had to do was remove a little bit more, make this choil a little more aggressive, and they could have avoided that, because there's obviously plenty of you know, scale here and handle to do that. So it's just a little disappointing. The other thing is, it's a little close here on the end, but it's not bad. I can't pull it or make that go. This, however, is awful.
Terrible. Terrible.
It is a very good-looking clip. Very good-looking pocket clip. Now but it's very tight, and you can't really see it without taking it off. I should have taken it off for you. I mean, maybe you can kind of get in there and take a look at it, but it's a total and complete pocket eater. It goes in decent enough, and maybe we can test it here on a Hank. It goes in decent enough, sort of. Ugh. Oh, yeah. I mean, then it's certainly not deep carry, right? You got quite a bit sticking out. But taking it off, I mean, look at that. That's just crazy. It's just crazy bad. So the pocket clip, again, you know, looks good, but is really kind of a total fail. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of rushing through this review a little bit than my normal, because I'm so disappointed in the knife, honestly. I mean, for $200... to have to get a knife that you have to chamfer it so that you don't get cut. You have to deal with a blade that is, by all extent and intended, for all intent and purpose, exposed when closed. You've got, you know, micarta that's a pocket clip that's no good for any sort of practical use, like putting it in your pocket. I just am kind of shocked, actually. This is not what I usually expect from Monterey Bay knives, and I've owned several of their knives at this point, and they've all been very good. This one is not. It's a beautiful design. I think this is a beautifully designed knife, and I compliment Mr. Carey on that, because I do think it's a beautifully designed knife, and this could have been a really marvelous knife, because it's got some, between the blade and this really amazing action and detent. Yeah. But lock stick, I mean, there's a lot of fails on this. And for this price, I can't really, I don't know. I just don't think that's acceptable. I'm sorry. It's just not.
Let's suppress rage.
So pretty disappointed by this. I'm going to leave the review there, because I don't think there's that much more to talk about. If you've purchased this knife, let me know. From what I've seen from other people I've talked to who have purchased this, there was a carbon fiber version, which I don't think had as many of the problems, but those who have purchased the micarta version, like myself, definitely seem to have run into those problems, or at least similar problems that I've had. So, you know, if you want to buy a $200 knife and then have to do a bunch of mod work on it, you go ahead and feel free. And I may end up still doing that, just because I really like the detent and the sound, and I really like the blade. But it's going to take some work to get this to a point where I actually like the knife completely, instead of being a little bit... Well, more than a little bit. I'm quite conflicted with it. So anyways, there you go. That's my review of the VLD, the very low drag from Monterey Bay Knives. Bummer, but, you know, I guess they can't all be winners. So there you go. Most importantly, though, of all things, stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another, please. And all the best.
You had a bad day.